Ladies and gentlemen, internet anomalies, what is happening? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and if not, I hope that today's stream makes your day at least a little bit better. I am coming to you live from the East Coast of the United States of America, and today we've got a bunch of things to talk about. I'm actually going to start the stream off on a rather lighter tone. We'll be talking about a couple of sports ball things, because, you know, I've been following sports somewhat since the college football season has started, and then also with ESPN Unlimited and Fox 1, I have access to some NFL games, so I've been watching that a little bit. So there were a couple things that I wanted to react to kind of going on in the sports world, so I'll be talking about that. But of course, I'll be talking about some news items that have happened, you know, since I did my last political stream. There was at least one terrorist attack. I'll be talking about that. There's actually a genocide of my people going on. My people being Christians, of course. So we'll be talking about that as well. Also, a few other political things that I would like to react to after all of that, if I have the time to do so. We will see whether or not I'll be able to get to everything. But thanks everyone, you know, who has joined the Discord server recently. The Discord server has been hopping. I appreciate you guys popping in. Remember, the link to check out the Discord server is on the screen. It is dscrd.ntnwb.cc. It's the place you want to be if you want to chat with me. You can send me things that you want me to react to using the React requests channel. And, you know, when there's more activity on the server, I like to do things like watch parties for shows and movies and stuff. So, you know, hop in the server. You know, if I wasn't so busy IRL, I would do things like, you know, have a whole day where I do like a red zone style presentation of college football, where I, you know, screen share my stuff. But, you know, I've got no time for that. So yeah, but no, if I ever get bored, that's what I'll be doing on a Saturday on my Discord server. We've got Bray Leno here in the chat. Nice to see you here. It says me ween. Not sure if that's appropriate. It says rip Tyreek Hill. Oh yes, I did hear about him getting injured. That's a shame. But some people pointed out that Nick Chubb has come back from more serious injuries. So I will say, wait, hold on. Rip Tyreek Hill, he passed away during her surgery. There's no way that's true. There's no way that's true, because I feel like I would have heard about that unless it literally just happened. I had ESPN on because there's been postseason baseball on all day long. And so like it would have been on like the ESPN bottom line or something if that literally happened. Tyreek Hill. There's no way he's dead. Bro. He's fine. This isn't even good like trolling or rage bait. This is like pretty like, bro, it says Tyreek Hill will not need an additional procedure. So it's like they're already like he's Gucci. He's completely fine. He's completely fine. I will say I've noticed that maybe it's because I don't think I've ever watched as much football as I've been watching this year, but literally every time I have like turned on football and thrown on a bunch of games on the TV in the multi-view, I almost always end up seeing an injury so grievous that like someone's getting carted away on the field. I'll rewind to kind of like see the play if I missed it. It's like, bruh, kind of crazy. I wonder if like serious injuries are actually on the rise scientifically. I don't know all the stats for that, but anyways, I'm going to cut the music because we do have some stories and things, of course, that I want to get to, as I have mentioned earlier. So with the start of this new college football season, we are, a few weeks underway now. But they have changed the college football playoff format. I keep forgetting this because we're not in the college football playoff right now. But the NCAA did release this video called How the New College Football Playoff Format Will Work in 2025 to 2026. I did want to check this out because I've heard, it's 12 teams. They got rid of bids or whatever. But I haven't had anyone sit down and explain to me exactly how the system is going to work. So I feel like this video is going to be helpful, not just for me, but for those in my audience who enjoy college football. I enjoy college football, bro. I've got the Ohio State jacket on right now. So I'm a fan of college football. Actually, a bigger fan of that more than the NFL, but that's a story for another day. So yeah, I'm going to find this informative, I will presume. Hopefully you guys will too.
The 12-team college football playoff is back for year 2 in 2025.
I can't wait for year 2. I hope it's the same as last year.
Well, actually...
Are you saying they changed it again?
Yes, they changed it again. Another year, another...
I will say, they gotta stop doing this. They have to stop changing the rules all the time. I know the system is somewhat new, but... it's actually not super new. We've actually had it for several years now. And I think that one thing that's really great about college football is the tradition. But there's no tradition with a college football playoff because, every year we keep on changing the format. I think that we just need to pick a format and stick to it. Because the other thing too is they're changing the formats because people keep on having complaints about the formats. I understand that, right? You don't want to make people mad or whatever, but at the end of the day, it takes things like this. For things like this, it takes time for people to get used to them. So you have to get people acclimated with the system. If you keep the format the same for 5 years, I think no one's gonna ask for changes, right? At least not to a degree to where there's a massive groundswell of support for such a change, right? So I think that they need to stop messing with it. They got to stop tweaking it. But we'll see what the changes kind of make the playoff like this year.
Change.
How would it work this year?
Let's start with the auto bids. Those are the same this year. The CFP selection committee's 5 highest ranked conference champions will get automatic bids. While it may appear that the ACC, SEC, Big 12, and Big 10 will be guaranteed an auto bid, any combination of the 5 highest ranked conference, no matter what conference it is, could make the playoffs. That means any of those last 4 conferences could miss the playoffs if they're not the 5 highest ranked conference champions.
And then the 4 highest ranked...
I will say I don't like any bids at all. There should be no bids. There should be no bids at all, right? Just take the top 12 teams and throw them into the pot. That's what I say. Now, I understand the theory where it's if you're a conference champion, you deserve to be in the playoffs. But I will say, let's say that you're a conference champion, but you're ranked number 20th in the country. Why should the number 20 team be in a 12-team playoff? Why do you deserve it? If you're a number, 14 team and you're a conference champion, why do you deserve to be in a 12-team playoff more than the number 13 team? I just think that you should just put in the 12 best teams regardless of whether or not they're conference champions.
Ranked conference champions get buys, right?
No, that's the biggest change this year. The conference champions might get auto bids, but they're not guaranteed a bye this year. The top 4 seeds and first round buys will go to the 4 highest ranked teams, regardless of if they won their conference championship or not.
So you're telling me last year's 8th ranked Boise State team wouldn't have gotten a bye in this new format, and now Notre Dame could get a bye as well?
Exactly. In the 2024-25 bracket, the 4 buys would have gone to Oregon, Georgia, Texas, and Penn State. And yes, even an independent like Notre Dame could get a bye without a conference championship in this new format.
So after the buys and conference champions, how's the rest of the bracket filled out?
That part remains the same. The 7 highest ranked teams that didn't win their conference will be a part of the complete playoff field. That means even if a team is ranked number 12, it's not guaranteed a playoff spot. If a team is ranked number 13 or lower and it wins its conference, it will get in over a team ranked number 12.
Now that makes sense. What would the matchups look like?
Seeds 5 to 12 will play in the first round, with the higher seed hosting the first round game. After the first round, there will not be a reseeding of the bracket. Teams will progress through the bracket to play their paired matchup, regardless of if a lower seeded team wins.
Okay, good,
all the
good.
way to the national championship game.
Now I hear you, but what happens to the New Year's Six games?
Well, this is where the New Year's Six games come in. Every year, the 4 quarterfinal games and 2 semifinal games will be played in New Year's Six bowl games. The games will rotate between the 2 rounds. The national championship game will be played at another neutral site chosen by the CFP committee. So there you have it. 12 teams, 4 rounds, 1 champion.
Now, I will say this. The bowl, I'll say this. I can't remember. Let me actually, you know what? Let me look this up. Let me look this up, because I will say this. I think that the biggest problem with the playoff system is that it's messed with the bowl season. So essentially, you know, the bowls are kind of what most people have looked forward to at the end of the college football season. So you've got like all the bowls. You love watching the bowls. And then after the bowls, you watch the national championship game, and then that's the end. That is no longer how it works in college football. I think that, especially because the playoff games are all bowls, it has sort of taken away attention from the other bowls, which is understandable. But there's one easy way to fix this. Like, hold on, let me look this up. 2025 college football schedule. And what I want to see is if there is, hold on, let me see. Okay, good. So this is a thing. So we've got, well, yeah, see, and herein lies some of the problems. So we've got bowl games and we've got the college football playoff games. Now, there's overlap. There's some overlap because, you know, most of the bowls happen after the college football playoff has already begun, right? See, so we see here only like a handful or maybe a couple handfuls of bowls happen, you know, from December 13th through December 19th. Then we've got a whole bunch of bowls from December 19th all the way through January 19th. And personally, for me, I think, hold on, let me see. I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly, because it is possible that I'm misreading these. Bowl. You know what? Let me look this up on Wikipedia. Yeah, here we go. FBS. If we go to postseason, bowl games. So we've got the playoff games here, and then we've got non-college football. Okay, so I was correct. I was correct. So here is my problem. This is my problem with how it works. We've got college football games here. Then we've got the playoff games here, starting on the 19th and then rolling all the way through January 19th. But then you've got non-college football playoff bowl games that are running during the course of the college football playoffs. And so, of course, that's going to draw attention away from, of course, having a setup like this is going to draw attention away from the non-CFP bowl games, because everyone's going to care about the CFP bowl games. Here is my solution to this problem. This is the biggest thing that that the NCAA or college football committee or whatever, this is the biggest thing that needs to change with the college football postseason. Make non-college football playoff bowl games all happen before the actual college football playoffs, because then every single game that's a bowl game could potentially have implications on the playoffs. Because, you know, let's say you're a high-ranked team and you you're put into a bowl game, then, you know, that game is win or lose, because if you lose that game, you might get knocked out of the playoffs and the team that beats you might get in, right? I think it just adds a whole new level of tension to the college football season, the college football postseason, that would, I think, just fix a lot of problems. But I don't know if anyone's even sort of like has that sort of change on their radar, but if they do, hopefully, they're thinking about it and making some moves, because we all know that they're always changing the postseason every single year. Maybe this can be one of those changes that they make for next year. All right. Now, because I'm a college football fan, you guys know I have seen this. I had to give my thoughts on this. Dave Portnoy, who recently joined Big Noon Kickoff, had some very controversial things to say. I will say that I've actually enjoyed Dave Portnoy somewhat on Big Noon Kickoff. I think he's a little bit obnoxious. I think to a certain extent it's a character that he plays. I don't really love the character. He's not as crazy as someone else who kind of tries to do the same thing sometimes, like Alex Stein kind of takes that same shtick and cranks it up to like not just 11 but 22. I'm not a big fan of that. So I think very clearly Dave Portnoy says some things out of for shock value. But I will say, I know that this may be a hot take, but I don't entirely disagree with Dave Portnoy's take here. Now, I will say, if you guys haven't heard it yet, I'm going to go ahead and roll the clip so you can listen to it for yourselves before I say what I think about this take.
Dave, we had an animated conversation yesterday about what this topic would be. I don't know what it is. So what did you settle on?
Well, I'm going to start by saying anybody who said I couldn't be a team player, I am. You may notice you guys are in the stadium. I'm on a random scaffolding outside. We've gone Big 12 to Big 10. I'm not going to talk about crying Ryan Day and the long arm of the law at Ohio State. Instead, I'm going to talk lightning. I am sick of lightning delays in college football. I don't remember it growing up. You have 4 or 5 games that have 4-hour delays. Everybody going in, sign a waiver. If you get struck by lightning, so be it. But when they do the delay, the fans have to leave the stadium anyway. So what if they get struck outside? Let's play football, man football, weather Midwest. You sign it, lightning, if it hits you, it's just not your day. That's my rant.
That's one way to put it.
I mean, I think Dave should get struck by lightning first before he starts.
We're not asking for that.
I'm not asking for it. I probably will. I'm on a scaffolding up here 1,000,000 miles high.
It's
My friends in
Dave.
Ohio.
It's grounded. It's lightning proof. You can't get struck there. Step outside
Did he say sign
into
a
a
waiver?
thunderstorm, Dave, before you start ranting about this stuff.
I don't like lightning delays.
Hey, again, Dave, lightning in the area, just go inside your car, please. All right, just
Yo.
Well,
I
I'm
worry. I
stuck
lived
on
in
a
Florida. I worry
scaffolding.
about lightning. Dave, thanks as always. We'll hear from you again in a second.
So one of my favorite things about this clip is the panelists getting like actually upset with him. It's just like, oh, I wish you were struck by lightning. Like, to me, that's kind of funny, not gonna lie. But there is part of this where Dave Portnoy's actually right, because I have ESPN Plus, ESPN Select now is what it's called, but I have ESPN Select, and so I've had ESPN Plus for several years now, and I watch a lot of games that are maybe not marquee matchups, maybe they're even FCS games, lower level games, even lower levels of production, even though they've got all of the nice ESPN transitions and things. I actually enjoy it because a lot of times those games are closer than some of the games that the mainstream media of college football might try to hype up. But here's what I've noticed. Okay, sometimes I'll be watching a game, I'll turn on a game, and then I leave and go do something else. I'll come back to my TV, and I see that the game is in a lightning delay. So I'll go back outside, do something else. I'll come back. The game is still in a lightning delay after 2, 3, sometimes even 4 hours. I'll say this, that's absolutely ludicrous. Because look, does lightning strike twice in the span of 4 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours? I don't know. You have people, especially when you have games that are starting later on in the day, because I've seen a game that started at 8 that went into 2 hours of lightning delays before they had to cancel the game. I think that's kind of ridiculous. You shouldn't be waiting that long to determine whether or not you're going to resume the game. I think that it needs to be a maximum of 1 or maybe even 2 hours, but I think frankly only 1 hour is reasonable. A maximum of 1 hour to wait to determine whether or not you go back on that field. And I admit I don't know the science of it, right? Maybe it is a thing where lightning waits 3.5 hours to strike. Again, I have no idea, but I will say that to me, I would prefer just like an hour delay, and the teams can choose, hey, after an hour, we're ready to play some football. We're not going to wait longer than the length of the actual game to resume the game that we just started. Another thing, there should be no cancellations. There should be no cancellations of college football games. Maybe if you have to, move back your conference championship week, maybe 1 or 2 weeks, so that the teams that have had canceled or that would have had canceled games can then postpone their games back to that portion of the season, right? Baseball does this all the time, where if a game gets canceled, they don't cancel the game actually. No, they will postpone the game and then they'll play it at a later date. Either they will play it on a day when they're not playing a game, or they will make a double header out of it. I understand for football reasons, it's probably not smart to do double headers. People already even have there's already some controversy and some concern over Thursday night football games because of lack of rest that you get from Thursday to Sunday or from Monday to Thursday. So I understand, not wanting to stack it up even to the point where it's like, oh, you guys have a game on Saturday, play the game on Friday and then Saturday as well. I don't want to put the college football players through all of that. But I do think that there is some value to being like, hey, we're not going to cancel the game. We're going to finish the game that we've already started. I think it's reasonable to be able to pull that off. And when you don't do that, it's like, let's say that you played like 3 quarters of really good football, and you put in all this hard work only for the game to be canceled in the win doesn't count. I think that's a little ludicrous, right? Or let's say there's a very, very tight game. Let's say even it's a tie game, right? It's a tie game coming out of the half, and then there's lightning. Well, I think a lot of people would be really interested to see who would win that game. And I think that both teams on that field would want to prove to themselves, each other, and the world, which of the teams was the best out of the two by finishing the game. I think everyone involved would probably enjoy and actually want to finish the game that they started. So I'm not a big fan of this canceling games. I don't like it at all. That's the one part of Dave Portnoy's thing that I agree with, beyond it being ludicrous to be sitting outside waiting for 4 hours for a lightning warning or whatever to conclude so that you can resume the game. Now, at the end of the day, lightning delays are not that common. They don't happen all the time, but I do think, it's a part of the game. And I think that if there's something in the game that you want fixed, I think it's fair to be like, hey, we need to make this change. Let's do it differently so that the game of college football is better as a result. Because I think we all can say that waiting around 4 hours only to cancel the game ultimately at the end of the night when it's 2 a.m. is a little bit ridiculous, right? It's a little bit ridiculous. It shouldn't be working that way. So, all right. So we got the fun topics out the way. I've been watching college football this year. And there are a couple things that came to mind that I thought would be interesting to talk about. So at the end of the day, I am not bound to only talk about politics. I enjoy talking about politics. I talk about it because I like doing so. But I like talking about other things too. So, you'll definitely, if you're new to my streams, maybe you might not know this, but you'll see me talk about some other things throughout the course of the streams as well. All right. So, unfortunately, not too long ago, there was a violent attack. There was an attack on a Mormon church in Michigan. Now, I have been hearing, this has hit the Mormon community extremely hard. This has hit the Mormon community extremely hard because, people are calling the Mormon church instead of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, which understandably has a lot of Mormons shaken. But jokes aside, this was pretty shocking, I'll say. I can't think of the last time that I've heard of a Mormon church specifically being attacked, right? I don't think that Mormonism has as deep of cultural roots as, say, Christianity does, Catholicism does. It's not even like a massive cultural lightning rod like Islam is, for example. So for there to be violence, especially if it is indeed politically motivated, it's actually kind of shocking to me that Mormons are the ones targeted, because it's almost kind of like a niche community, right? It would almost be like, I don't know, shooting up Canonical's headquarters because you hate Ubuntu. It's like, that is not like a really big community that I would expect to even garner enough attention to draw someone with enough hatred in issues within themselves to go and carry out such an attack. So it definitely caught me off guard, but it's tragic nonetheless. Let's check out some coverage here from Fox News. The title of this video is FBI believes Michigan church shooter hated people of the Mormon faith, Carolyn Levitt says.
Well, this morning, houses of worship on alert after a gunman rammed his car into a packed church in Michigan, shooting at the worshipers and then setting the building on fire.
So at least 4 are dead in the attack, and law enforcement feared that the death toll could grow.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt joins us now to react from the White House. Caroline, we all watched this in horror yesterday. Is there anything that you've been briefed with that could move this story forward to find out what?
They need to fire this guy. They need to fire this guy stat. This is the guy, by the way, who said, what was it that he said? He said that, like, you should kill homeless people if they refuse to get help from public services. And then not too long after that, someone actually went and shot up a bunch of homeless people and killed them. And he had to issue an apology, but he didn't even get suspended. To me, the safe option for everyone, if you're caught up in like a controversy like this, is a suspension, right? Because if you're the employee, you still get paid, right? So you just get a vacation. If you are the company who is hiring them, you have publicly, officially distanced yourself from the figure and taken a very visible punishment out on the person. Here, he just had to give an apology. I don't think that was sufficient. But beyond that, I don't think he's been a great host. He is one of the pillars of Fox and Friends, which is why I don't like the show. I just don't like his personality. He's bumbling over his words. I don't think he's that great of a host. Clearly past his prime. This guy needs to be put out to pasture. I don't know why they're keeping him around. I literally just picked a random, not even that random, but I just picked a Fox News video to hit play on, and I've got this guy stumbling over his words. Like, if the controversy wasn't enough, I think that him making mistakes like this on a huge stage when you are a literal veteran in the mainstream media should be enough to get you kicked off the air. But, regardless, let's hit resume.
Now to react from the White House. Caroline, we all watched this in horror yesterday. Is there anything that you've been briefed with that could move this story forward to find out what the motive might have been?
Briefed on.
Well, first of all, I want to express our sincere condolences to the victims and their families and all of the members of this church who were gathering on a Sunday in the United States of America to worship Jesus Christ. And a crazed gunman rammed his truck into the church and started firing at these innocent Americans. And our hearts break. The president was very quick to put out a statement completely condemning this and assuring the American people that the FBI is on the scene. And I spoke.
Yeah, why would anyone do this? Mormons haven't really done anything to anyone except be a little racist some decades ago. The Mormon community is not particularly hateful, as I understand it, and they're also relatively insular. They don't run around even spewing much rhetoric at all to people in neighboring communities, as I understand it. So this terrorist attack is something that, if it's a terrorist attack, is the type of thing that it has me kind of scratching my head if I'm going to be honest. The Angry Canadian says, "Hey, not a newbie. Is Satan trying to take over the world? He failed." There's some stuff in Revelation about that. It might be an opportunity to make another video about that, but it's a really good question. I do appreciate the question. The Bible is actually free. If you didn't know, the King James version is in the public domain. You can literally download that in any format you wish. You can also check out the Bible Gateway, .com, and you can just read Revelation to find out what's going to happen, because there's some spoilers in there.
With our FBI director, Kash Patel, bright and early this morning, he assured me and the American public that the FBI is currently executing multiple search warrants at the residences and the family homes of this perpetrator to try to get to the bottom of why he would commit such an act of evil. And the FBI is working with both state and local law enforcement, providing the full support of the federal government. And I just want to commend state and local law enforcement for their swift and incredible response. Local police officers were on the ground of this scene within minutes and neutralized this shooter, no doubt saving lives. And they should be commended. Our police officers are heroes, and this president will always respect them and support them.
They definitely were. They were there in 32 seconds, Caroline. What did the FBI director tell you about the shooter?
Crazy, bro. Give me some women police. That's a really good response time.
In 32 seconds, Caroline. What did the FBI director tell you about the shooter? What do we know?
What we know at this point in time is that he was a member of this Michigan community, that he is a veteran of our United States Armed Forces. He served in the United States Marine Corps in Iraq. His family is cooperating with the FBI, and so they are currently trying to dig in and get to the bottom of why he committed this heinous act of violence. It's unfathomable. And as the president rightfully put in his Truth Social yesterday, this appears to be yet another targeted attack on Christians. And the Trump administration is fully committed to not only investigating these crimes, but prosecuting them to the fullest extent of the law, but also working very hard to prevent them, to see if there's red flags. The FBI is going to treat those as public safety emergencies and investigate them to try to prevent such violence from taking place in our country.
You know, Caroline,
it's crazy. There are different groups of people, different demographics who hate other demographics. But I feel like, especially when you look at religious hatred, just in general, not even in America, and because I'll get to what's going on across the world in another video, but I find it interesting that wherever there is religious hatred, it's almost always targeting Christianity, spin-offs like Mormonism, or non-Islamic Abrahamic religions. I have not. When was the last time you heard of a terrorist attack on a mosque from like a bunch of Christians running around? Like, I can't think of the last time that I've heard of anything like that happening. Right? Usually I feel like it's like Christians getting attacked, Catholics getting attacked, Jews getting attacked. I guess now we've got Mormons. I don't know where this Mormon hate has been coming from. That's a serious head scratcher for me, but that's somewhat concerning. It seems like the enemies of God truly are the most violent extremists that you will find walking and roaming the earth.
We had the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We had the attempted assassination on ICE officers in my hometown of Dallas. And you just obviously just referred to the church. Did this suspect leave any indication that he was trying to target people of faith, more than the obvious of him doing it to a church on a Sunday?
Well, from what I understand, based on my conversations with the FBI director, all they know right now is this was an individual who hated people of the Mormon faith. And they are trying to understand more about this, how premeditated it was, how much planning went into it, whether he left a note. All of those questions have yet to be answered, but certainly will be answered by the FBI. I think the American people in your audience can be assured. Look at the great work that the FBI did in light of, or in the hours and days following the assassination on Charlie Kirk's life. That was a successful investigation, and that investigation continues. And that assassin was, of course, being held accountable in the court of law now.
At least two big meetings for the president today. One is going to be with the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, at which time I understand they were setting out a framework to end the Israeli-Hamas war, but a comprehensive peace for the region. I understand, too, I have a pretty good source that says Bibi's on board. So do you expect there's going to be a press opportunity?
So I guess that's the end, actually, of their segment about the terrorist attack. This is terrible. This is pretty bad. I think it's worse that it's Mormonism because they're not actually saved. But yeah, people are extremely polarized. I released a video recently. I'll talk about it here because the algorithm is not pushing it, of course, because it's actually self-fulfilling. I was like, this video is not going to get pushed by the algorithm because it's not inflammatory or polarizing, and I was correct. But there's a video that I put out. Actually, let me look up what it's called. Real quick. Here it is. Yeah. So I put out this video. It's called YouTube Wants Me to Hate on Donald Trump. And the crux of it was YouTube is pushing out polarizing content that stokes hatred, gets people and not even hatred necessarily, but also just like gets people wound up and gets people very like passionately whipped up. And I just don't think that that's helping the American culture at the moment. I think it's driving people away. Now, I am going to talk about things that I like talking about on this channel. I am when Trump does something wrong, I'm going to criticize it, but I'm also not going to sort of join the sort of group that YouTube is incentivizing me to be in, which is going like, oh, the algorithm is telling me to hate this person. I'm going to hate this person. I get the views. I get the attention. Meanwhile, that is going to radicalize the exact types of people who are going to be doing these types of terror attacks, right? At the end of the day, I think, honestly, if the whole country turned to God, then, all these problems would be resolved. But frankly, unfortunately, that's not entirely realistic. So I do think it's important to talk about other potential avenues in ways that we can de-radicalize people as well. So maybe YouTube needs to tweak their algorithms and stop pushing out just content that is going to grant and entice emotional responses. Maybe just put out feel-good stories or put out content that isn't demonizing or talking down to people. And I'm just using YouTube as an example, right? Because we've also got X, which I think is actually particularly bad in promoting rage bait, as well as we've got Reddit, we've got all types of other social media platforms that all sort of do the same thing. And it's understandable, right? Because the more upset you get someone, then the more engagement you get out of them, the more clicks you get, the more ads you get. But at the end of the day, when your strategies are sort of tearing America apart and dividing everyone, you have to wonder, how much of the country has to burn before you decide whether or not to change what you're doing so that the whole country that you're based in, by the way, and that a lot of your customers and users are in, by the way, who are giving you most of your revenue, by the way, they all just die because you sort of destroyed the society in which they live, right? Now, of course, the people who commit these acts of terror, they should keep all the responsibility on committing the acts of violence that they did. But still, you can't act like, people aren't necessarily being whipped up by rhetoric either from politicians or what they see on social media from content creators into having the mindset that justifies these types of acts of terror. All right, let's see here. We have more things as well. I've got more grim news. We've got this from CBN News. This is a story about my people being massacred. My people being Christians, other believers, of course. This is about the Christian genocide in Nigeria. I will say that what actually brought this to my attention, unfortunately, was a Bill Maher segment. There was a clip that went viral of Bill Maher saying this. Where no one is releasing. Yeah, see, everyone's got to add their own things to the end, but I think this is as close as we're gonna get to a clean clip of Bill Maher bringing up something very interesting here.
he said on live TV left many speechless.
Nigeria, I mean, the fact that this issue has not gotten on people's radar.
Right, no one's talking about it.
It's pretty amazing. If you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, your media sources suck. You are in a bubble. Not, and again, I'm not a Christian, but they are systematically killing the Christians in Nigeria. They've killed over 100,000 since 2009. They've burned 18,000 churches. This is so much more. These are their Islamists, Boko Haram. This is so much more of a genocide attempt than what is going on in Gaza. They are literally attempting to wipe out the Christian population of an entire country. Where are the kids protesting this?
This is quite true. However, instead of being like, oh, what's wrong with the media for not doing this? I am going to actually just react to coverage of this to try to shine a spotlight on this story. This has about like 50K views, but this is literally like the only clip I was able to find of anyone covering this story. CBN News, it makes sense. They're a Christian television channel, but I'm just shocked that there's hardly any coverage. Well, I'm not shocked, but it's unfortunate that there's hardly any coverage of this at all. So I kind of want to make my own video to sort of highlight this tragedy. And I'll probably be making multiple videos as well to sort of blast out the fact that, hey, this is a huge problem. We've got to pray for these people, right? Trump is out here touting all the wars that he's ended. Hey, check out Nigeria, fam. This is pretty bad. You know, just saying. But let's roll the clip so that we can actually learn more about what's happening here in Nigeria.
The genocide against Christians in Nigeria has escalated with yet another gruesome killing spree, this time in the Christian-majority southern Kaduna area. Truth Nigeria's Mike Ode James joins us now. Mike, what can you tell us?
Thanks, Raj, for having me. These killings happened 3 nights ago in a village called Wake village, and it is located in the southern part of Kaduna State, which is also part of the Middle Belt. And on Sunday night, about 10 o'clock, Fulani militants stormed the village of Wake and started shooting sporadically into the village, and they killed about 7 persons there were killed. And when the next village of Gidanadaji heard the gunshot, they decided to mobilize their local security and see if they could help out the people of Wake. As the youth from Gidanadaji were going to Wake village to see if they could help out, they were ambushed by the same Fulani herdsmen, Fulani terrorists, and 2 of them were killed, bringing the number to about 9. So right now we have about 9 people killed, and about 5 were critically injured. I learned 1 also died, but I cannot confirm that. And the rest were taken to the hospital. The car was burnt and some houses were burnt. Now you will ask again, who are the perpetrators? Of course, they are Fulani militants. That is what
I was about to ask that. I was about to ask the question.
Who are the perpetrators? Of course, they are Fulani militants. That is what we were told, because I was at Kachia yesterday, and what my people sources told me, they said they were shouting Allahu Akbar, we will exterminate you, this infidel. That means Allah is great, we are going to wipe you off the face of the earth. And for now, that is how it is. The village of Wake is in mourning. The people of Gidanadaje too, they are mourning because they lost 2 young warriors who went to rescue or help out their neighbors. So right now we are having a terrible situation. And
so Mike, what would you say to people who again say that this is just tribal herdsmen, this is land disputes, this isn't a religious conflict?
No, this is not land dispute. Now again, this person, when I was speaking to the locals and the tribal chief, they said the Fulani sent them an emissary, told them that, look, come, we want to discuss with you. We want, in Hausa they call it sulhu. That is, you come, you negotiate, you give us your land, we'll have access to your land, we have access to your farmland, we have access to your rivers, we have access to your streams, your wives, and then there will be peace. That is not peace. That is actually a takeover of their land.
Yeah, I mean that's literal war. That's literal war. This is just awful. And it sounds like I'm not super familiar with Nigeria. To be fair, I've never been, but it sounds like there's no functional police, right? Because he's saying that they mobilize security forces, which generally speaking, when there's a place where the police isn't active or functional or even existent, then there'll be private security that larger groups, could be churches, could be rich people with lots of land, could be farmers, hire out to protect themselves, and they sort of use that in lieu of law enforcement when there's no real law enforcement. So it's understandable that in the absence of the police, you would have some acts of terror sort of going unchecked. And of course, and I think rightfully so, believers wouldn't be, or at least shouldn't be, running around looking for these people to gun them down in retribution. But this sort of has left the church there in sort of a defensive position where, you carry on, you do your business, you get attacked, and then maybe you fight people off in self-defense, and then the cycle goes over and over again. I would like to hear more context as to what sort of what are the dynamics of this society in which this took place, to see if there's a way that these people could be brought to justice, because unfortunately it's hard to see how this would end unless maybe God radically changes the hearts of these Fulani terrorists, or another state comes in and tries to fight them off. Maybe Trump sends in some militarized forces or something. I don't know, but this is not really looking good for the Christian community there in Nigeria.
The people refused, then they started kidnapping, then they launched this attack. So what we're having is not land dispute. When you say land dispute, it is when probably two tribes are quarreling over a land. Maybe one tribe encroaches into the other land. But that is not it. We have a situation whereby some Fulani ethnic militia, and I'm not saying all the Fulanis. We have Fulanis that are armed and that are bent on appropriating or seizing lands that do not belong to them, and then imposing their culture, imposing their religion on people who are not Fulanis. That is what is happening. And when they do that, they kill. You understand? It's not a land dispute. When you're talking about land dispute,
it's literal war. I think it's literal war. That's what this is. No land dispute at all.
These people come with AK-49 in the night, and the villagers are asleep. The people doing the attacks are Muslims, and the people being killed are Christians. So you don't have land dispute here. What we have is land grabbing, ethnic cleansing, and religious imposition.
Well, Mike, maybe in closing, you and I tragically do a story like this. It seems like every couple weeks, and if it's not you, it's one of your colleagues at Truth Nigeria, and it's not a fight or something like that. It's always a massacre. It's people being cut up with machetes. The photos that you send are just absolutely barbaric. Why is no one doing anything about this? People ask me at CPN to do something. I'm just here in San Diego, but there seems to be no government pushback, no United Nations pushback. It just seems like this just keeps happening.
Yeah, hold on. Wait a second. Has the United Nations said nothing about this? That's insane. Their tendrils go all across the world. I don't think that we didn't hear about this is a fair excuse for the United Nations to not, put at least a statement out saying that, this is bad. United Nations, Nigeria, Christians massacred. I'm going to look up just real quick to see if anything has been said from the United Nations about this. Okay, 2018, there's an article that seems to be referencing some violence there. Human rights situations that require the council's attention. So it looks like someone wrote a letter to the United Nations in 2018, and it was submitted into the Human Rights Council on the 38th session from June 18th, 2018 through July 6th, 2018. But let me look up and see Nigeria. Okay, here we go. And I'll read this here. Introduction. Well, actually, hold on. There's a little thing here. It says, atrocities being carried out against Christians to take action to put an end to it. This is from UN.org, so I believe, or docs.un.org, so I believe this is legitimate. It says here, within Nigeria exists one of the deadliest and cruelest Islamic terrorist organizations, Boko Haram. The governor of northeastern Nigerian state of Borno, Kashim Shettima, estimates that the Boko Haram insurgency has led to the deaths of over 100,000 persons, with 2,114,000 persons having become internally displaced as of December 2016, 1,815 in separate camps. This is as of 10 years ago, by the way. As of 10 years ago. That's crazy. Okay, so here's the request. There's a request. There are a lot of gruesome details in this. The link is on the screen if you want to check it out. The PDF is called Written Statement Submitted by the European Center for Law and Justice, Centre Européen pour le Droit et la Justice, a non-governmental organization in special consultative status. Okay, but here's the request. Clearly, horrific acts of aggression are violating the peaceful lives of Christians in Nigeria. In order to prevent further loss of life, a massive humanitarian crisis, and to end increasingly religious motivated violence, we must act now. The UN Charter calls on the UN to remove threats to peace, and the Genocide Convention calls on the UN to prevent acts of genocide, not merely to respond to genocide. We have seen in Iraq and Syria what happens when the UN fails to take preventative measures, when it is clear that mass atrocities are being carried out against a particular group of people. This is only the beginning. If meaningful action is not taken now, the problem in Nigeria will worsen. ISIS and ISIS affiliated groups like Boko Haram have shown their resiliency time and time again. When they are forced out of one area, they flee to another. They flee in order to regroup and fight another day. Action must be taken to not only stop the spread of violence within Nigeria, but also the spread of violence in West Africa. Boko Haram has in fact already begun carrying out attacks in neighboring Chad and Cameroon. This is why we respectfully request that this council work with the government of Nigeria in order to protect the people who are vulnerable to attack by preventing further attacks, prosecuting those who are responsible for these brutal atrocities, providing aid and assistance to the victims. This was like, not 10 years ago, but this is like 7 years ago. And it seems like the United Nations has done nothing for what I could see. I literally look up United Nations, Nigeria, Christians massacred, and the most recent thing I can find is this PDF from 2018, which is pretty pitiful. There are a bunch of Christians, especially Republicans, in Congress. We should be going up to the UN and being like, "Yo, deal with this. At least, classify this as officially as a genocide that can at least be verbally condemned, if not physically condemned." Y'all know me; I'm a Christian. I'm not all for violence or whatever, but I think that states absolutely have the right to carry out acts of violence, and I think that UN should probably send out some peacekeeping forces out to stop groups like Boko Haram, to stop groups like the Fulani terrorists, so that these types of things stop happening. The whole point of the government is to, at least from my readings of scripture, the government has two roles: instill fairness and instill justice throughout the populace, and also make sure that people are safe without, harming freedom too much, right? The UN in this role has miserably failed the Nigerian people and the Christians in Nigeria. unfortunately.
And no one does anything. Why is no one doing anything?
Raj, and I'm going to tell you, the only organization that does this, that helps to enlighten people, is Equipping the Persecuted, led by George Saul, and then Christian Broadcasting Network, that is your organization, and thanks to them. Now, the government media and other conventional media wants to be politically correct. They don't want to say Fulani ethnic militia are attacking Nigeria or Nigerian Christians. They don't want to say the Fulani terrorists are killing ethnic nationalities that are not Fulanis.
I mean, yes, and we all know the media hates to cover acts of violence that they can't fit inside of a political narrative. And, you know, if there's a shooting, I've seen this happen, where there was a shooting, big story, there's a shooter on the loose, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people dead. Oh, what happened? This is a tragedy. This is horrible. Then hours go by, the story dies out for the media. It's taken out for front pages of CNN, MSNBC, NBC News, even Fox News. And then the story suddenly dies. It's not because they didn't find the shooter. Because they found the shooter was black, or the shooter didn't fit a political narrative. The American media is very, very focused on pigeonholing all their stories into left versus right, and kind of from what angles to attack the left or the right. Sometimes they're just bad things that happen and you need to cover them. This is one of those things, right? A massacre, right? There are more people killed in this terrorist attack than of the multiple shootings that have been covered extensively in the American media lately. At least this is my understanding. And yet this is not covered. It's because of how the mainstream media likes to cover things. It's extremely unfortunate. But I would think that more outlets than CBN News would be covering this. Like, what about American Family Radio? They've got a YouTube channel. They could be making videos about this. There are other groups, organizations, and channels as well. It's a little bit disappointing because there are a lot of Christian outlets, and only CBN News is covering this. That's a shame.
I don't want to say there is land grabbing, but the fact is, many villages have been taken over by these terrorists. The government will want to tell you that it is fueled by climate change. No, we don't see that. Climate change.
Wait, is that real? Yo, that's crazy if that's true. They're saying, oh, man, you know what? If only we gave the Muslims AC. That's a crazy thing to say. You can't blame hatred of Christians on climate change. That's absurd. That's absurd.
Maybe as a result of desertification, we don't see desertification, and there are antidotes, panaceas to this climate change. You do ranching, you do air dams, irrigation farming. The government have all this up north, but this tribe called the Fulanis are moving down to the areas where Christians are domiciled, and they are taking over their lands. And when they take over the lands, they don't bring in cattle. They bring in their women and men to occupy this land and then rename the land. So it is land grabbing. You understand?
Wait, so hold on, wait a second.
Called the Fulanis are moving down to the areas where Christians are domiciled. And
so he's saying, oh, is he saying docile or domicile? Because the captions are kind of messed up, because domicile and docile don't have the same meaning exactly. Like, yeah, I just looked at domicile because I wanted to make sure. Yeah, domicile means that's where you live. Docile means that you're like pacifist, basically. Docile. Yeah, it's like willing to accept control or instructions. I was about to say, like, I was wondering, like, is he like advocating for violence, saying these people should just be like, you know, blasting these Fulani's heads off? Like, I wasn't quite sure what exactly it was that he was going to advocate for, but he's saying domicile, not docile, not docile. Okay, I'm about to say. You got some violent Christians out here saying all types of crazy things. So I wanted to see if he was one of those. Seems like he's legit.
They are taking over their lands. And when they take over the land, they don't bring in cattle. They bring in their women and men to occupy this land and then rename the land. So it is land grabbing. You understand? Now, again, only Truth Nigeria is doing the accurate reporting, only equipping the persecuted, an American organization owned by Mr. George Saul and Christian Broadcasting Network that is, saying the right thing, that is writing and reporting. They don't. We have been have been blacklisted. I'm sure my colleague Masar Hakim has been threatened. I've been called. They say, why are you people? You don't have to say it is Fulani herdsmen. And we ask, who are the people doing the killings? Is it the Americans? Is it the Syrians? Or is it the people from Niger? It's not. It's the Fulanis, and they're not hiding it. They are showing it on TikTok, they are showing it on Twitter, and they are sending warning messages that we are going to kill. And
wow.
The only thing is,
the crazy thing is, you would think that social media platforms would be banning that stuff, especially the calls to violence, the warnings to violence, the threats to violence. I don't understand for newsworthy sake to be like, oh, well, some people did some bad things and posted videos about it. That's fine. That's entirely different than, sort of celebrating these acts and then saying, oh, look, we're going to go and do some other stuff. We're going to get you like that. I'm extremely surprised that that kind of stuff is allowed on social media. I'm not a censorship guy, but I think that when you are threatening people with violence, that goes beyond the bounds of free speech.
Americans are not getting to understand is because the Nigerian government is not allowing the media to say the right thing, to say the truth.
The Nigerian media would not be able to keep CNN from talking about this if they want to, right? CNN could have an interview with you if that's what they wanted to do. Fox News could have an interview with you if that's what they wanted to do. Newsmax TV could have an interview with you if they want to. MSNBC, News Nation, One America News, Real America's Voice. I could go down the list. They all could have interviews with you if they wanted to, but they choose not to. They choose not to. Because either it doesn't fit the narratives they want to talk about, they're concerned about boring the audience, they think the audience doesn't care about these stories. But if you are a news apparatus, your job is to report the most relevant things that are happening in the world. And I would say that an active genocide that is killing hundreds of thousands of people is most assuredly relevant enough to talk about.
And that is why you guys, equipping the persecuted, Christian Broadcasting Network, you are doing great. Now, what you can do is, by the time you keep amplifying this, the American government will get to listen, they'll get to understand, and then something will be done. But I hope it happens very fast.
Amen. Amen. Well, Mike, I appreciate your time, my friend, and God bless.
Thank you so much, my friend. God bless.
Very good segment. Very good segment. Check out CBN News because it looks like they've done multiple videos about this, and they're providing continual coverage of this story, which is a huge story, even though the media wouldn't let you know that it's huge. So definitely check out CBN News as they continue to cover this. I looked up Truth in Nigeria quite briefly, and it didn't seem like they're uploading videos recently, but it seems like their correspondents are collaborating with CBN News so that they're keeping tabs on what's going on over there. Yeah, definitely keep yourself updated on this story. The story is huge. Also, be praying for these folks as well, because prayer is powerful. It's not like prayer does nothing. Prayer definitely works. And has an active role in how things occur throughout the world. So keep them in your thoughts, keep them in your prayers, and keep yourselves updated. Let's see, what else do we have here? We got more stories here. All right, I'm going to react to this story. I'm going to react to this video here. This is from Emily Saves America. This is called You Won't Believe What These Streamers Said. Now, this video came out a while ago, and I think it's about even older footage, but I think it's worth talking about because the gist of it is there are content creators out there who are fairly popular online, and they are spewing violent rhetoric. And I think this is going to be relevant no matter when this video goes live, because this is something that these content creators continue to do day in and day out. One of these content creators, Destiny, I used to actually watch. because he actually had some somewhat reasonable takes, especially when it came to self-defense and the Second Amendment. Handful of other things that he was accurate about as well. I appreciate his pushback on against the alt-right, but when it comes to talking about Trump, he's got Trump derangement syndrome, and it's pretty bad. It's to the point where he celebrates the deaths of MAGA supporters and wishes actively for the deaths of even more. And so that's something that happened a year ago, and he still has not let go of that mindset. So I feel like no matter when this video goes live, it's going to be relevant. Props to Emily Saves America for sort of compiling these examples and presenting them in this format. Let's roll the clip.
So we have a left-wing streamer. I'm sure you've seen Destiny. I've been so lucky to be on Piers Morgan with him. So Destiny says that conservatives need to be afraid and they need to be killed. So we, really excited to, see how Destiny is going to really shine in the light of the left-wing movement.
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now, they don't feel like there's any fear. Like, I don't know. It's like memes. It's just memes to everybody, I guess. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't care. God, it's gonna be so fucking gay if I get killed in the next fucking 2 months of shit I'm doing. Well, the cuck shit out here. Please don't anybody make any actual fucking, the most cucked, weak-ass, fucking bullshit-ass speeches on my side. God, if it happens, holy shit, I'm gonna make a death note before I go out to go live and not... God, it's so cucked. It's so optics cucked.
Isn't it insane that he's actively, calling for the deaths of conservatives and right-wingers, and then he's saying, man, I hope nobody assassinates me. That's absolutely crazy. But he's part of the crew that believes that there's a saying, and I feel like it applies to the left so much nowadays. I'm noticing it's applying to the right as well when it comes to things like free speech, and we'll talk about that in a different day. But there's a saying that applies to the far left, of which Destiny is a part, although he's probably one of the more rational people, ironically, of everyone on the far left. There is a saying that applies to them. The saying goes thusly: there are no bad tactics, only bad targets. No bad tactics, only bad targets. What that phrase means is that you feel that you're justified in doing anything it takes, as long as the target of that action is someone who is bad, evil, or in opposition to you in some way, is your arch enemy, right? So, for example, if you went up to an Antifa member, right, and you said, "Hey, do you think murder is bad?" They'd be like, "Yeah, I think murder is bad," right? They will say this. But then you can ask them and be like, "Hey, do you think Charlie Kirk deserved to be killed?" And if their answer is yes, then you can tell that they're part of this mindset that's like, there are no bad tactics, only bad targets, right? So these are the types of people who, by the way, would be on board with massacres, would be on board with genocides. All you have to do is convince them that a certain group is really bad, and then they'll be on board. These are the exact types of people who will be on the first in line to murder people during whatever civil war might happen. They're going to be the first in line to do that because they believe that people on the other side deserve to die and they deserve to be killed. So hey, once people start bringing out their guns, they're going to be the first ones to be they'll be putting out the first kills in the round. That's just how it is. And I know it sounds dire. I know it sounds maybe doomerish. First of all, you should know that it's if it's coming from me, it's never doomerish. Right? You know me, I love being optimistic. But second of all, this is just the reality. We have a man here literally saying that conservatives should be fearing for their lives so that they're scared to say their opinions out in public. He was celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. Tell me, what is the most charitable interpretation I should be having of someone with that opinion? Leave that in the comments. If you're live, you'll leave this in the live chat. Tell me how I should interpret this in a charitable way. Why don't you? But in any case, let's resume this. Let's resume this video.
Out of all the worst, most far-right, extreme people you guys can think of on the right, you will never find anybody saying anything nearly close to this.
You'll probably find some people who will say, kill Jews and kill people who race mix, miscegenate. I don't even know what terms the alt-left, the alt-right neo-Nazis would say, but there are certainly some people on the far right who would say things like that. It'd be along ethnic lines for sure, but I think they're few and far between, right? They sort of tell their audience to hate these people and to distrust them, but they don't say to kill them out loud. I think part of it is that just the group is so small that there aren't even enough people that have enough variety in their rhetoric to where you'll have more moderate neo-Nazis and then you'll have more radical neo-Nazis.
He is literally saying
rhetorically, right? I'm not saying that Nazism is in any way moderate. Don't get it twisted.
Right, nearly close to this. He is literally saying to kill Republicans and conservatives. Keep in mind when you're like, oh, Destiny isn't mainstream. Destiny is on Piers Morgan. I see all the time.
Piers Morgan has people who are not mainstream. Destiny is not mainstream. He is somewhat popular. If you're in certain circles of the internet, you'll see him all the time. So Destiny, I would say, is somewhat popular, but he's not mainstream. Exactly.
Been on with him. He's had multiple write-ups, and I believe the New York Times, Washington Post. Yeah, he is mainstream. You guys thought Charlie was extreme, and this is who you have. By the way, he has a kid, which is insane, who's already praising Hitler online, and I'm like, yeah, well.
Bro, the more time that goes on, the more shocked I am that Destiny even has a kid. Like, that actually does somewhat astound me, because Destiny's kind of psycho. And it's like, I don't know, he's the type of person that would have expected to throw the baby into a wall in a fit of rage or something, or just abandon the kid on the side of a road because he didn't want to deal with it crying because he thought it was annoying while he was trying to play Factorio or something. The fact that Destiny has the child and coexists with the child I find it confounding.
Well, maybe when your dad is a psycho left-wing streamer that literally gets filmed sucking dick, maybe that's why your kid is such a fucking freak.
I wasn't expecting you to go into the ad hominems so quickly. Come on, we could be civil. we don't have to go through all of this.
Film sucking dick, maybe that's why your kid is such a fucking freak. He's already praising Hitler. I mean, this is the pieces of shit being produced in society, and then this is what I'm like, he fucking reproduced, and now that's what.
Yeah, I mean, that it does surprise me that he reproduced, but here's the thing, right? It's very natural, I think, for kids to rebel against their parents somewhat, especially in terms of values. I see that happen quite frequently. However, I think that part of this is just how extreme Destiny is. Because when you're Destiny and you're on the far left, when you have a kid that rebels, he's not gonna rebel by becoming a centrist. What is the biggest form of what is a bigger form of rebellion to a bisexual progressive than becoming being a straight neo-Nazi? That's the route that what does he call himself now? Nathaniel the Memer Autonomy. I think he's got another name that he goes by that I forget. I know that he has a channel where he talks using this name, Autonomy, Nathaniel the Memer. Oh, he goes by Fate now. He keeps on changing his name every day. He changes his name every day. So he's got this channel. He goes by Fate now. But yeah. Oh, Libermoto. Libermoto is the name I was thinking of that escaped my mind. But yeah, I mean, that's the route that he chose. When your goal, especially if your goal is just to piss off your dad, then it completely makes sense that that's the route that this guy is going.
what his kids saying online. I mean, like, the fact that, like, how are there not charges against these people? The irony too, as someone who does have to, like, literally hire security everywhere we go. Oh no, we have lived in fear for literally years. We do every day of our life, because we get threatened by left-wing people to be murdered all the time, and you guys promote this all the time. The difference is, you know, we believe that we're doing something for good reasons, so we push and continue to do it. But how?
I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it, because the left thinks that what they're doing is for good reason as well. Also, you know, this has been somewhat successful, by the way. These acts of violence and terrorism have been somewhat successful. Remember Andy No? You guys might not remember Andy No because it's been such a while ago since he was active. But Andy No used to be a reporter who was on the ground recording footage of Antifa rallies, BLM rallies, these types of events. But eventually he had to quit. He had to quit because he kept on getting violently assaulted by Antifa. When he would show up to record them, they would literally try to kill him. They were throwing cement milkshakes at him. He ended up with a concussion. He had to go to the hospital, I think, multiple times when trying to do his live media coverage. And so he ended up quitting out of safety for his own life. So it's actually been somewhat successful, which is why they've been able to do this, or why they continue to do this until they ended up murdering Charlie Kirk.
There's no consequences for him blows my mind. If I said something like this today, I would have everything taken away from me. I would have death threats, and I would probably have lawsuits as well.
Well, to be fair, Destiny has also been somewhat siloed. He was banned from Twitch, I believe, for pissing off some trans people, I want to say. Because he's certainly not politically correct on that issue, which is, I think, one of the big reasons why I started listening to him in the first place. But then I think on YouTube, he recently got restricted for these very same egregious comments. So I think he's actually most active on Kick, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, he has faced some repercussions. But a lot of that drama predates even this, because he's been saying crazy things for years, and sort of has been like on the edges of the mainstream social media live streaming platforms. So it's not entirely accurate to say that he's faced no repercussions for the incendiary things that he says.
They would literally put me on the stake. So when people are like, oh, he's not like, no, this is your guy. Left-wing media, that's your guy. You have the fat girl and you have Destiny. Yeah. And I'm sure, I can't believe you guys will lose elections moving forward when this shit's tolerated. And then we have Hassan Piker saying to murder conservatives in the street.
Kill them. Kill those motherfuckers and murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude.
I want all the
I want the full clip of that in context. I really want to know what exactly he was talking about. I see that clip go viral all the time, but I don't know what he was talking about.
These people deplatformed. The amount of people on the right who have lost their platforms for literally questioning the vaccine, and they are allowed to openly talk about killing us. The irony of him is he's Cenk from fucking Young Turk's nephew, who's a trust fund kid, which is the funniest part about all of this. I mean, talk about, like, you guys prop up these idiots like they're on your team. He's like literally a douchebag trust fund kid.
I would agree, by the way. I think that if you're going online saying, go out and kill these people, right? Or, these people should be murdered, or, we got to keep killing these people until they start, feeling the burn or feeling scared to share their opinions online. Though anyone who says things like that, they should be deplatformed, I would say, especially from mainstream platforms. I think there's a case to be made for, siloing them off somewhere to some obscure platform, like, what is it, Cozy TV, which is what Nick Fuentes uses, because otherwise, some of those people, if you start removing them from the internet entirely, then they will resort to other means of activism, which the majority of Americans would not find palatable, let's say. But I do agree. But I think that when you're threatening violence, that's outside the bounds of free speech.
That's why he does this. He does this because he doesn't have to go work and get raped by taxes like we do, okay? He gets to stream and say this shit. And I'm
pretty sure that he has to pay taxes on his income. She's surprisingly wrong on some of the things that she's been saying, not gonna lie.
like, the amount of people that have lost their platforms for literally saying the truth, that people that have lost their lives for saying the truth. I have never seen anyone on the left stand up and say this should not be tolerated and these people should not have platforms. But
you know what's crazy, actually? What's kind of crazy is that in comparison to the majority of societies on planet Earth that have existed throughout history, as bad as things have started to get in the United States and the trajectory in which we're on doesn't seem great, but is it still like one of the best societies that has ever existed? Charlie Kirk got assassinated, which is bad for sure, but you know, there are societies in which, you know, even more people would have been killed or even arrested by the government. Like Emily Saves America would have been sent to the Hoosgow in the UK in the fraction of a second. I'm quite sure. As would I would imagine, and many other people on the right. You know, nowadays, even in the West, the United States is a far better place when it comes to free speech than the world. So, you know, I understand that, especially when it comes to this, in this era, in this year, it makes sense to be a little bit doomerish about the state of the United States. I think that if you zoom out and take everything into perspective, is there really any other place you would rather be? I think it's a fair question to ask yourself. Is there really any other place you would rather be? This doesn't negate the bad things that are happening in the United States. It doesn't negate the trajectory that we're on. But I think it's fair to not just look at the bad, but also look at the good.
yeah, they're the first ones to cry about Republicans and our hate speech and how it leads to danger. I mean, unreal. Whoever owns these platforms should be banning them immediately. They should not be able to make money.
I'm sick and tired of it. Left-wingers, liberals, you need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. What the fuck is this shit, man? Slice them up. Slice them and fucking dice them. What the fuck is this?
I mean, this should be the best argument for why we need guns. We literally, Republicans...
So true. So true. Very accurate.
Literally need guns in this country to protect us from the left, who will not stop threatening to kill us. Yeah, that's why they don't want us to be able to defend ourselves. They want us to be scared. And then they actively talk about murdering us, and then they're the first ones to cry victim. And then they'll be the first ones to be crying about free speech and how Trump and Republicans are threatening their rights well, you actually don't have a right to talk about brutally killing people you disagree with.
Right. Also, you have no standing to complain about free speech when you're saying that people should be murdered for the things that they say. Right? Like, it's pretty obvious that you're being a very blatant hypocrite in that regard.
Unreal. And then, of course, Hassan, just a fucking idiot, says his favorite flag is the Hezbollah flag while sitting right in front of a trans gay rainbow flag.
Let's talk about our favorite flag.
That's not even half of it, because the person he's speaking to is literally gay. I mean, he has spoken extensively about his illicit activities on this podcast before.
Oh, like overall, what my favorite flag?
Yeah.
Hezbollah. Look it up.
Oh.
I'm not even kidding. It's actually a dope flag.
All right.
I don't know flags.
It's this is a.
You know what? I'm gonna be brave. My favorite flag.
It's got an AK on it and a fucking hand holding it up.
Wow, son.
Or
I love that Austin is really like Hassan because he knows. I'm quite sure that he's aware that Hezbollah is extremely homophobic, right? They hate gay people, right? They celebrate every national holiday by throwing gay people off of roofs. That's hyperbole, but it's something that they enjoy doing is killing gay people. It was one of their favorite things to do. Trans people as well. They're not trans inclusive either. This is an insane thing to do, and it's explained. I don't think that she's gonna get to it, but there's a clip of him telling NMP lol that Hezbollah is a good, essentially saying that I think it's saying that Hezbollah is a good group that does resistance work. So he supports Hezbollah. If he opposed Hezbollah, at least he'd be like, hey, look, bro, I don't support what they have to say, right? I don't support their beliefs. I don't support their actions, but the flag, though, was fire, right? Because that's something that I would say if I was like, yo, man, you know what's one of the coolest flags? I don't get down with what they do. I don't get down with their actions. But, bro, that Californian flag, though, like that's the appropriate way to go about it, even if you genuinely think that this flag is the coolest one, which, frankly, I think it's a mixture of the sentimentality of his support for Hezbollah that's led him to view this as his favorite flag.
Hand holding it up.
Wow, son.
Or
the AK is what they
behind the
use
paywall. It's fine.
to kill the other flag with. That's literally what that is. And then they would
hold on. I'm gonna look this up. Hasanabi NMP lol. Oh, sorry, no. Wait, hold on. Was it the? Oh yeah, because the whole thing was like, NMP lol was like, do we like them? Hold on, let me see. No, I don't think that. Let me see. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah. So yeah, I was right because I didn't want to misspeak. I wanted to make sure I was being correct. But yeah, he literally has praised Hezbollah. So he supports them.
He's the leader of Hezbollah, the general secretary of Hezbollah.
What's Hezbollah?
Hezbollah
is that small guy?
Hezbollah is this is the same name.
Okay.
Hezbollah is a paramilitary organization that is also a part of the Lebanese parliament.
Do we like them or no?
I think as a resistance group, they're pretty successful against Israel. But everybody hates them. Like everybody in the region, a lot of people don't like them. Like
I like what you like.
I don't have an issue with them. Let's just say.
One thing that was funny about this clip, though, there's a longer clip of this, but he was trying to keep NMP Law from actually saying that he likes the group because he knows that they're a terrorist group. He didn't want to get NMP Law in trouble where, NMP Law is not the most knowledgeable about what's going on. So it'd be unfair to sort of goad him into supporting Hezbollah without knowing what he's getting into. But still, yeah, with that background, I don't know if Emily knows that, but, that's the background of why he loves this flag so much. It's because he supports Hezbollah.
Would also kill him. And then if they saw him specifically wearing the shirt that says "Show me your dick" with fucking puka shell necklace on, they would literally gang rape him before they then string him up to the public to show you what will happen if you even dare behave that gay in front of them. So the irony of that, while he's sitting next to a guy wearing I Heart Hot Dads, she's so stupid she doesn't even understand what a flag is or what they look like. And then this kid, which is, I don't know, maybe free speech. Maybe it's too free here. Maybe we should put some sort of limitations on podcast equipment and microphones. So they love flags. Flags are fun. They don't like the American flag, I'll tell you that one. She was probably like, what's the British one with the stars on it? She probably doesn't know the difference.
That would be funny. Yeah, I don't know. I think at least Cutie Cinderella probably knows what the American flag looks like. I'll give her that much. I'll give her that benefit of the doubt. That was it was helpful that Emily used that video to sort of, in a succinct way, compile these clips of these content creators saying some very radical things. I just wish that she was a little bit more accurate of what she was saying, because she was wrong on a few points. It's very clear that she's only seen the clips and she doesn't know much context about who these people actually are. But I mean, the majority of people who've seen these clips do know who these people are. So, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world exactly. Let's see. Yeah, let's try and run through these other things. There's some more stories I wanted to get to. I'll try to get through at least one more story that I have left here on the docket. But here, I'll say this. One of the most unfortunate things about Charlie Kirk's death, I think, is the emergence of more extreme content creators who have sort of come to prominence in an attempt, and I would argue a mad dash, to fill the vacuum and the void left behind by the empty space at Charlie Kirk's desk. Now, one of these individuals, the one who I actually am most upset about his claim to fame in the midst of all this, is Nick Fuentes himself. Now, part of this is actually the mainstream media's fault, because they were saying for a minute that the person who shot Charlie Kirk was a Groyper, and Groyper's a follower of Nick Fuentes, by the way. And so I think, you know, that sort of rose Nick Fuentes's profile in a way that was quite most assuredly undeserved. Here, let me look this up here. Wired Nick Fuentes. Because I'm just wondering if Wired released a video about Nick Fuentes, but it looks like they did not. I know Wired has a YouTube channel.
Data breaches happen,
but I mean, they're not entirely the most political channel in the world. So anyways, let's go through this article from Wired. They did a profile of him. Why did they even do a profile of him? This is not the type of guy you should really do a profile of, in my opinion. I mean, you can if you want, but at this moment, I feel like the only thing it does is raise his profile. I understand it from a journalistic perspective, but I just not a big fan of it. You could do a profile of Ben Shapiro. Ain't nobody doing profiles of Ben Shapiro. Go do a profile of Ben Shapiro. Go do a profile of, I don't know, Steven Crowder. Go do a profile of Tim Pool. There are other people you do profiles of. But anyways, Nick Fuentes' plan to conquer America. For years, influencer Nick Fuentes was too extreme even for MAGA. Now he's working his way into the mainstream and has a plan for his secret followers to seize the levers of power. White nationalist. Okay, at least they're calling him a white nationalist. White nationalist live streamer Nick Fuentes finds it very difficult to hide his contempt for his own followers, known as Groypers, even when they are sending him money. I censored, but can you screw off and rage quit? Nick Fuentes muttered during a live stream on the alternative streaming platform Rumble earlier this month. Oh, did he move from Cozy TV to Rumble? I thought that he was in Cozy TV. That was like his thing, I thought. The anti-Semitic, anti-trans, misogynistic, and racist influencer was responding to a follower who sent him a $10 super chat message offering advice on how to treat the cold Fuentes was suffering from. By the way, I do appreciate that they had sources for these different links for the anti-Semitism, the anti-trans stuff, the misogynistic stuff, and the racist stuff. I will say that the only thing I like about Nick Fuentes is that he's so stupid that he will say like some of the most ridiculous things that's impossible to not laugh at. Like, hold on. This is actually one of my favorites. One of my favorite clips of all time on the internet. Let me see if I can find this. Yeah, okay, here it is. This is one of my favorite clips on the internet. It's just because it's so stupid. Like, okay, look at this.
What, people calling me gay because I've never had a girlfriend?
They ended up being correct, by the way.
I think if anything, it makes me less gay. If anything, it makes me not gay. As opposed to less gay. Not that there's any gay, but it makes me not gay. Well, because think about it this way. You know, gay people do date girls all the time. Real. And when I said on Elijah Schaefer's show, and they said, have you ever been in a romantic relationship? Have you ever had sex with a girl? And I said, no. If you name searched me on Twitter, as I always do, all these gay people are coming out and saying, I've had more girlfriends than Nick. I've had sex with more girls than Nick. So like I said last week, not only is that thinking flawed, but actually it's the reverse. That actually makes me really more heterosexual than anybody. If we're really being honest, never having a girlfriend, never having sex with a woman really makes you more heterosexual, because honestly, dating women is gay. Having sex with women is gay. And having sex with men is gay. And that, you know, it's all gay. And if you want to know the truth, the only really straight heterosexual position is to be an asexual incel. No. That's it. So that's all there is.
This is like so insanely stupid. It's like, well, you know, the only real way to preserve the rule of law is to break the law. It's like, oh, this is ridiculous. But that's the only purpose that he serves, right? Is to be well, I wish this was the only purpose that he served, was to be a lol cow that people just laughed at. It's kind of unfortunate that he's taken more seriously than that clip would have you take him. But let's continue, because there's actually more to this article. Groypers are a group of extremely loyal supporters of Fuentes' white nationalist and Christian nationalist ideology, which he describes as America First. Their leader's undisguised disdain for them, which at times edges into outright hatred and name-calling, is part of his appeal. Younger viewers in particular view his unvarnished responses and unwavering views on immigration, Israel, and Donald Trump, he's against them all, as genuine and authentic, especially compared to what other right-wingers offer up. I mean, it's true, but I mean, you know, I think that Hitler was authentic as well. You know, you know, authenticity is a virtue that only gets you so far. You know? Now Fuentes is looking to leverage his rapidly growing audience in a new level of influence among more mainstream figures in the GOP and MAGA movement to build a nationwide secret society of sorts, which he believes will help bring his vision of an America dominated by white Christians to fruition. The country overall, I think, is closer to accepting our position than they were 10 years ago, Fuentes said in a recent live stream. I think we're kind of still waiting for that inflection point, and once that happens, I think it happens all very quickly. After a decade of live streaming hate-filled diatribes in which he has said that certain times of assaults are not a big deal, denied the Holocaust and compared himself to Hitler, Fuentes believes he and the white nationalist movement generally have very little to show for it, which is kind of true. It says, but in the wake of the murder of the right-wing activist Charlie Kirk, things have been happening very quickly. For the last 6 years, Fuentes had relentlessly attacked the Turning Point USA co-founder, focusing especially on his support for Israel. Fuentes also repeatedly called out Kirk's unwillingness to debate him. In the aftermath of Kirk's death, Fuentes struck a more conciliatory tone, urging followers not to pick up arms, but also repeated that he believes Kirk was, quote, complicit in the Israeli capture of the right wing for a very long time. See, and this was one of the things, and we actually even saw this from the Destiny clip, where I think that some of these people start getting scared by their own followers, and they get scared of what they've created, right? So I think that probably showed him it was possible, it was certainly possible that it wasn't true, but it was possible that a Groyper was the one who murdered Charlie Kirk. And so he's like, whoa, I don't really want to be responsible for, you know, widespread death and carnage all across the country. So, you know, I can understand him changing his tone when he realizes, you know, the likelihood is rather high that he has been contributing to the type of rhetoric which has been causing people to become so extremely polarized to the point of condoning violence. Let's continue. Rather than damaging Fuentes' popularity, Kirk's death has accelerated it. His X following has grown by almost 175,000 since Kirk's death, and he has seen his following on Rumble increase by more than 100,000. His live stream commemorating the death of Kirk was among his most watched by far, with over 2.5 million views. I didn't know he was getting that many views. That's crazy. That's disgusting. 2.5 million views on a Nick Fuentes stream? How does that even happen? Does Rumble really have that many viewers? Because that's the only platform he's on, I think, for on-demand videos. Cozy TV is just for streaming. I don't even know. Is Cozy TV still up? Cozy.tv. I don't know if I'd be able to show it just because of how extreme some of the content is on there. Yeah, the platform is still up. Nick Fuentes is on there. Hold on, wait a second. Bro, is this Kick? Why does this look like Kick? It looks the exact same as Kick. That's crazy. But yeah, no, he's still on Cozy and Rumble, but it seems like that's it. So he got 2.5 million views on Rumble. That's absurd and unfortunate. His live stream the following Monday discussing who's responsible for Kirk's death also saw a higher than normal viewership. In the space of less than an hour, Fuentes earned over $5,500 from the top 5 super chat donations made by supporters, according to a review by Wired. Fuentes did not respond to repeated requests for comment. Of course, he didn't respond. A generational run. For years, Fuentes was viewed as a pariah by people within the Republican Party and the MAGA movement. Still is. But I mean, unfortunately, he's getting more play. The Valuetainment folks had him, I think, on the Patrick David show or whatever. Not great. He has done multiple episodes of the Alex Jones show before. Also not great because, you know, at least I think Alex Jones isn't anti-Semitic. He's a conspiracy theorist, but he's not anti-Semitic. So it's unfortunate he's decided to cozy up with Nick Fuentes. For years, Fuentes has been viewed as a pariah by people within the Republican Party and the MAGA movement. I don't think anybody should be spending any time with Nick Fuentes. Then House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said in 2022, days after Trump had dined with the anti-Semitic musician and fashion mogul Ye and the America First leader at his Mar-a-Lago resort. I think it's fair to point out that Trump didn't really know who Nick Fuentes was. An aide about 10 to 15 minutes after Nick Fuentes and Ye showed up at the dinner, an aide went and whispered in his ear, basically said, hey, you know, he's anti-Semite, right? And then kicked him out. So they didn't even really get to finish a full course with Trump. Unfortunately, this sort of insinuates a sort of alliance between Trump and the far right that just doesn't exist. Bray Leno said, I have to read the Mein Kampf for English class, bro. Why? That makes no sense. It was written in German. You have to explain why. That doesn't make any sense at all. Doesn't make any sense at all. But over the course of the last year, coinciding with Elon Musk's decision to reinstate Fuentes' X account, his influence has skyrocketed, despite or perhaps because of his criticism of Trump's failed campaign promises around the Epstein case and mass deportations, as well as his support for Israel. He is on a generational run. I don't care what anyone says. He is on fire right now, comedian Vincent Oshana said while appearing on the podcast of right-wing influencer Patrick David, who interviewed Trump last year. Fuentes has been praised, albeit usually with heavy caveats by others, by among others, Minister Myron Gaines. Well, Myron Gaines is anti-Semite as well. I'm surprised that he would give any caveats. Right-wing commentator Dinesh D'Souza. Oh man, it's been a while since I heard that name. And live streamer Aiden Ross, who hosted Trump during last year's presidential campaign. Well, Aiden Ross is just stupid. Fuentes, well, sorry, that was a little extreme. Aiden Ross is both literally and politically illiterate, right? So whenever Aiden Ross says anything about politics, I'm not expecting him to understand even the things that's coming out of his own mouth. Okay, maybe that's a more accurate way to put it, right? I don't think Aiden Ross is like the stupidest person in the world. It could be true. I just haven't seen him take an IQ test, and it's a little bit of an ad hominem attack. But my point in saying that and I'm sorry, I don't like doing ad hominem attacks. My point in saying that was that Adin Ross's understanding of politics is so poor that I would not glean anything from his endorsement of anyone. So, Fuentes has also been at the center of a very public fight with mainstream right-wing media figures Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Carlson called Fuentes a weird little gay kid in his basement and suggested that he was part of a deep state plot to undermine real right-wing figures. Most observers, especially his own supporters, concluded that Fuentes came out on top. Interestingly enough, I actually suspect that Tucker Carlson might be a Russian asset, but that's a story for another day. Young Trump supporters listen to Nick Fuentes, and if they don't listen to him, they listen to the people who have been influenced by him, says Michael Edison Hayden, an extremism researcher and author of the forthcoming book Strange People on the Hill, which follows a small town's takeover by a white nationalist group. He's absolutely influential on immigration, on anti-Semitism, and optics, whether establishment Republicans want to admit that or not. Born in 1998, Fuentes grew up in a well-off suburb of Chicago. By the time he was 18, a freshman in Boston University, he was already live streaming, launching what he would call America First with Nicholas J. Fuentes on YouTube, having gained a cult following in February 2017, where it has brought his show to the Trump-aligned Right Side Broadcasting Network. The so-called alt-right of which he was a part, and Fuentes' brand of edgy nihilism specifically fell apart in the wake of the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in August 2017. At the time, Fuentes wrote on Facebook that the event, which resulted in the death of anti-fascist activist Heather Heyer, would unleash, quote, a wave of a tidal wave of white identity, something that at the time didn't happen. I don't even know what that would mean. So like a whole lot of people identifying as white? I don't understand. I mean, I'd have to see the clip in context, and I don't want to. Let's see how much more do we have in this. Okay, we still have a bunch here to go through. Fuentes returned to YouTube before he was banned from the platform in 2020 for violating the company's hate speech policies. He continued broadcasting a show on DLive, an alternative streaming platform, but was once again suspended indefinitely in 2021. He was in attendance outside the Capitol on January 6, 2021. He was captured on video speaking to supporters. One of the rioters inside the Capitol on the day was captured on video waving an America First flag. This is why I'm not a fan of the phrase America First, by the way, because while I do think that the policies in the United States of America should prioritize the United States of America, America First is too heavily associated with Nick Fuentes' movement for me to just bandy it about freely. So that's why I don't use it very much. Fuentes moved his show to a custom platform called Cozy TV that he built in collaboration with Alex Jones. Oh, I didn't know that he built that with Alex Jones. Interesting. More recently, he has found a welcoming home on Rumble, the alternative media platform that also hosts Donald Trump Jr.'s podcast. It has been backed financially by both Peter Thiel and a venture capitalist fund co-founded by Vice President J.D. Vance. Let's see here. Excuse me. Despite being suspended from most major social media platforms, last year Fuentes was reinstated on X by Musk, who wrote that he could stay on the platform, quote, provided he did not violate the law and let him be crushed by the comments and community notes, unquote. Rather than being crushed, Fuentes has seen his following skyrocket from 168,000 at the time his account was restored in May 2024 to almost 925,000 today. Well, we want them to have no clue. In a recent interview with Eric Orwell, one of the founders of a whites-only community in Arkansas, Fuentes complained that for all that has happened since Trump came to power, there are very few groups who are operating right now in the pro-white sphere. It's almost like, most people are not, racist, white supremacists, and white nationalists. He listed Jared Taylor's white nationalist American Renaissance Conference in VDARE, a white nationalist group founded in 1999 by Peter Brimlow. Brimlow. That name is familiar. Hold on. What? That's crazy, yo. Wait, I had no idea. Okay, hold on. So, Hannah Claire Brimlow, who was, I think, one of the best ever contributors, especially out of former cast and crew of Timcast IRL. Hannah Claire Brimlow used to be on there. Apparently, she is the daughter of Peter Brimlow, who formed an alt-right white nationalist group called VDARE in 1999. I had no idea that they were related. That's crazy. Yep, it says here, parents, Peter Brimlow. That's insane. That's wild. Let's see here. Fuentes also mentioned his own show in the Anti-Semitic Culture Wars magazine. But Fuentes believes that he and his Groyper army can change that, despite his growing influence within the GOP and Trump administration, as well as his rapidly rising support among young white men in America. Fuentes repeatedly said, in order for a movement to make an impact, it needs to operate in the shadows. No rallies, no protests. We don't need to show everybody how many of us there are, because the second we do, they will identify, isolate, and destroy us, Fuentes said on a recent live stream. I think in reality, it's just that they're not that popular in general. And they'll get laughed at. Oh, we're having an America First rally, and then like 10 people show up. Like, oh wow, what a popular, powerful group you have. I think that's the reality of the situation. It says here, we want them to have no clue. I've already read that actually. Fuentes says that he travels the country constantly to meet his supporters, who have started different groups and organizations across the country, everything from campus groups to book clubs, all founded on the racist and anti-Semitic doctrine he preaches on his live streams. He described his movement as a tech startup and a patchwork that eventually we're going to knit together over time, adding that he saw Orwell's whites-only community in Arkansas as part of that network. That's just gross. Ugh. That's just gross. There are certainly Groypers within the administration, and I believe Fuentes, when he says that he has contacts within the administration, including probably pretty high up, says Hannah Geist. That was hard to understand. An extremism researcher with the Southern Poverty Law Center. There are signs that figures familiar with Fuentes' movement play roles in the administration. Back in May, for example, Trump nominated Paul Ingrassia, who at one point allegedly grilled career FBI agents about their loyalty to Trump, according to a recent lawsuit, to head up the Office of Special Counsel. Ingrassia attended an impromptu rally in June 2024 after Fuentes had been denied an entry to a Turning Point USA conference. Ingrassia later claimed to have been unaware of who was speaking at the rally. However, he wrote an ex post at the time condemning the decision by Turning Point USA to reject Fuentes. It's unclear at this point if a vote to confirm Ingrassia's appointment will happen. So it does not seem particularly confirmed that Ingrassia actually is a Groyper. It's also possible to say, like, hey, Nick Fuentes should be allowed to speak without being a Groyper yourself. I'm quite sure. Oh, it hasn't been deleted, actually. It says here, oh, so this is in response to this video from Brian Krasenstein. The text of that is, thank you. Anti-Semites Nick Fuentes and Jay Shields were just kicked out of TPUSA. I remember these clips. I can't remember if I reacted to them or not. While I disagree with Turning Point USA on pretty much everything under the sun, this was absolutely the right move. No one in their right mind wants to associate with these bigoted hate mongers. This year, when you have one of these guys praising this as the right move, you know it was an awful decision. Well, he's just being reactionary there. Conservatives should always uphold the First Amendment and allow for dissident voices, especially those that abide by the venue's rules, which was the case here. Well, yeah, he's not supporting anti-Semitism at all, right? This is a pretty bad paragraph. They don't back up their claim at all that he's a groyper. So I guess they just lied? That's surprising. Why would the mainstream media ever do that? And Gracia in the White House did not respond for requests for comment. On one live stream earlier this month, a young supporter told Fuentes that he was getting some of his friends into the movement and said that it was, quote, growing at an exponential rate, end quote, adding that you have the youth in this country sold on this movement. While this may be an exaggeration, Fuentes' young supporters are sold to the point where they are willing to fund him and his ambitions. In addition to what he raises with super chats, Fuentes also has a subscription service called America First Plus. For $15 a month, subscribers can get full access to the full America First archive. $30 a month gets you the archive plus AI-powered search. For the most dedicated groypers, there is a $100 a month tier that also gets you access to a group chat that Fuentes is a part of. In a recent video criticizing the people who are part of the group chat, Fuentes claims that he's got 400 subscribers in the $100 a month tier, which would amount to $50,000 a year. Fuentes also earns money from his range of America First merchandise, including $40 baseball caps and $25 mugs. I'll be honest with you, I've made a lot of money this summer, Fuentes said recently. Yeah, I got a lot of support this month, this year, lots of views, lots of followers. These followers are helping to get the word out. Fuentes live streams 5 times a week on Rumble, where his videos typically rack up hundreds of thousands of views. Clips from his shows are quickly spread by supporters on many other platforms, including X, Instagram, and TikTok, where they can quickly amass millions of views. Fuentes' disdain for many of his supporters appears to have no impact on his popularity, but the 27-year-old is clear that what he refers to as the Grug-level supporters are not what is needed in order for his movement to take control. Instead, Fuentes speaks about attracting elite human capital, supporters who will then become part of an officer class of high intelligent entrepreneurial people. Once they get 5,000 of these guys, those are going to be the party officials, party apparatchiks in, as an analogy, Fuentes said, I'm kind of interested in inspiring those people, indoctrinating those people. They watch a show, they get the ideas, they get the inspiration, they kind of take a project into their own hands. I mean, you know what? I was criticizing this at the beginning, but this is actually good journalism, right? It sort of just breaks down who Nick Fuentes does, honestly and fairly, and sort of explains how he wants to transform the country. I don't think that he'll be successful, but, you know, I'm glad that they're sort of exposing this, because I think, especially considering how popular he's getting, I think it's only fair for his methods and motives to be exposed. And I think that an article like this is probably one of the best ways to get that job done. All right, so there were a whole bunch of other things I wanted to talk about, and unfortunately I did not have the time to get to them. So we will see whether or not they will remain in the docket for the next stream, or if they will be shelved indefinitely. But you know, hey, we actually got through a lot of content this stream. Ran through a lot of stories. I'm actually pretty happy. I think the stream went pretty well, more or less. And we also had some people in the chat, which is always nice. So of course, as we wrap up the stream, we have to give the obligatory shout outs to the people who were hanging out in the chat as well. Shout out to Bray Leno. He was the first one to send a message to the chat, send his condolences to Tyreek Hill. Understandable. Also, the Angry Canadian popped into the chat as well. He said, I permanently banned myself from dating. I don't know what that means, but okay. Maybe we could talk about it in the Discord server. But yeah, thanks to you guys for sending messages in the chat. I do appreciate you guys sending messages, especially because sometimes you guys ask questions that are really interesting that lead to the creation of entirely new videos, right? Actually, the most recent video on my 9 Newbie Highlights channel is me answering a question from one of you guys. I think one of the newer Canadian fans that I have. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening or night or whatever. Some of you guys are watching me internationally probably at this point. But yeah, Peace out, y'all.